The coronavirus pandemic has caused churches to stop their in-person worship services and small groups. And so we've been engaging in this experiment for the past year or so. Can we build and maintain a meaningful, authentic spiritual connection without gathering in face-to-face groups? Can we do this with virtual church? Now, of course, it's not just churches that are asking this question. All kinds of businesses, nonprofits, educational institutions. People are all asking, what can we do online? Can we do the things that we've been doing in face-to-face gatherings? Can we get them to work online? Can we do them virtually? I think the answer is no. I don't think virtual church works very well. If our essential connection to spiritual community is watching online services, that's going to be detrimental to our well-being, our spiritual well-being and our mental well-being. We need other people. We need meaningful in-person connections with other people. It's way less convenient to go to a church service or a small group gathering in somebody else's home or some other place than it is to sit in your basement in your pajamas, maybe with your pets on your lap, watching some online live stream of a worship service. It's way more convenient, but it is way less meaningful. It is way less effective at helping us grow in our spiritual life. Okay, before I go into the 4 reasons why I think this is detrimental, let me offer one quick caveat. I don't want to get into the questions about the politics, the questions about the science of, how you feel about if it's safe enough or if it's too dangerous to gather with people in person or not. I'm going to leave that for other people. You need to decide that for yourself. What I'm most concerned about is the people who can get together in a face-to-face or in-person gathering, but choose not to because, as we've talked about, it's more convenient or whatever to do the thing at home. Okay, so 4 reasons now why I believe doing church at home as your primary spiritual connection is detrimental to your spiritual, mental, emotional well-being. The first is the medium that we use to stream our live services or recorded services where we're watching it, let's say on our TV screen or our computer screen or maybe even on our phone. It puts us in entertainment and consumer mode where we are passive spectators and observers, where we are customers and the customer is always right. And therefore, as a customer, if what you're seeing is not entertaining enough, is not interesting enough, or bugs you in some way, you can just change the channel and do something else. Marshall McLuhan, the great Canadian philosopher and one of the early pioneers of media theory, is famous for saying that the medium is the message. Different media lend themselves to different kinds of messaging because the media itself, or the medium itself, tends to affect how a message is presented and how it's received. So think about this. The medium of streaming video is passive entertainment. It's one-dimensional rather than being immersive, being in a place together. It's passive. We watch rather than actually participate in the gathering. And it's right there on the knife edge of our fickle level of interest, so that if we find something too challenging or too boring, with just a few keystrokes, we can watch anything, literally anything else we want. The greatest TED Talks, the world's top stand-up comedians, movies, sports events, documentaries, erotic material, news updates, cat videos, lots and lots of cat videos. There are a lot of things that are more interesting and fun to watch than spiritual gatherings and spiritual teaching. And this brings us then to the second challenge, the second problem with online church. Online church moves us from a community to a cafeteria approach to religion, which is detrimental in all kinds of ways. The Barna Research Group did research midway through the pandemic to try to figure out what was happening with church-going people during lockdowns and what their experience was with online church. And what they found was about a third of the people who typically attended church, when things went online, they didn't participate at all. And 1/3 participated regularly in their local church. And then another third participated in a bunch of different ones. And in fact, I would say that this has been a very common, anecdotally, something that people will talk to me about, that they'll say, I watch, this church and then this other thing. So people are experiencing the church communities kind of like going through a cafeteria and having a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Well, I think that's a normal thing. I mean, and that happens all over the place, that people receive teaching from whatever local church they're part of, but they're also hearing stuff from other places. They're reading stuff from other people. That's great. But we get to stage 2 then, where people find themselves connecting to other places and then losing their connection to that local church. Maybe because their presentation is not as visually interesting, or there's other problems and other ones are more interesting. This would be okay if church was just like a store that offered spiritual goods and services, and you as the consumer would check out different stores, and you would go to the place that has the best goods and services for the cheapest price. And that's just how we would do it. That makes perfect sense, except for the fact that churches are not organizations, are not like stores that offer goods and services. They are communities. They are like families that we connect to. And it's in that connection, in that family relationship, that's how we grow. And what this means is that the experiences, the connections that we have that pull us away from that connection to whatever our main family is, whatever our main community is, that disrupts our spiritual life, and that takes us away from something that we really need, which is genuine connection. The third problem with online church is that it prevents us from connecting with people, engaging with people in ways that are life-giving. Now, video church does allow us to present content, to present teaching, but there's a lot more happening in worship gatherings and small group gatherings than just the sharing of information. And that's what we often miss then when we try to do this online. There's a reason that the Bible directly challenges people to not give up the habit of meeting together. That's Hebrews 10, verse 25. And that was written to a church group where people were feeling the pressure to stop going to in-person gatherings, because when they did, then people who were critical of the Christian faith, who were persecuting them, would know who they were, and they had the possibility of losing possessions, having their possessions confiscated, and actually going to jail. So there's this big incentive to not do the in-person gatherings. But the writer said, you need to keep doing those because you need that. And what part of what we need with these in-person, face-to-face gatherings is the connections with other people. Now, obviously, one of the ways that we do that is like before and after the worship service is actually happening. It's the casual interactions and the sharing of news and information, and even sometimes, the praying together with another person that we're able to do when we're interacting with each other, because we see each other, we're in the same building, in the same room together, in a Sunday morning worship service or a small group gathering or whatever. But there's something deeper going on about the way that we influence each other and encourage each other and strengthen each other just when we're together doing something in the same room. Let me give you 2 examples to explain what I mean. It's one thing to watch a baseball game or a basketball game or football game on TV, completely different experience to watch it if you go into the stadium in a packed auditorium and watch the event in the stadium with the players and the people around you. I mean, really, I'm at the point now where I can't even watch baseball or basketball on TV. I just find it boring. But I love going to the events. It's a different thing. There's the energy and enthusiasm of the crowd, and there's a focus that you have in a game like that when you're all there in the building at the same time. You feed off of the energy and focus of the people around you. It makes the experience way, way better. And again, that's just as a passive observer in an entertainment thing. It has that effect. Imagine the power of that effect then when we are kind of engaging and focusing in worship together. And again, we're going to get to that in just a little bit. The second example shows that there's something deeper, in some ways maybe even more mysterious going on here. And that is, did you know that around the world, people who meditate, and it's also true for people who pray, but even just meditation where you are sitting in silence and you're, let's say, following your breath, you're allowing your mind to calm, you're meditating over, let's say, a certain scripture passage, whatever, these different forms of meditation. In whatever form of meditation, the universal teaching is that it's better if you can do that in a group with other people. And people who meditate by themselves and then also have the experience of meditating with other people in a meditation group will always say that for a reason that's hard to verbalize and understand exactly why it is, but the meditation is way more powerful when you're doing that in a group with other meditators. And there's something about the way that we influence and encourage and strengthen and help each other focus, even when we're just sitting in silence together. And that principle is at work in our gatherings. There's something about having the gathering where we are embodied in the same room together, and we're feeding off of the energy and enthusiasm and the focus of the other people around us. Okay, this brings us to the 4th reason that online church is detrimental or doesn't really work very well. And I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but I'm just going to share what my experience is. And it's something that I've also heard anecdotally from other people. See if you agree with this or not. The online medium does not work very well for the parts of the worship gathering, such as singing together, praying together, obviously doing the sacraments together. Those kind of things, for whatever reason, they just don't translate very well in this medium. Being in an environment, in a room, in a building with other people where you're all doing this together, it draws you in, it pulls you in. The worship, the enthusiasm, the focus of the people around you affects you and helps you focus. And it just doesn't seem to work very well if you're sitting there in your basement or at your computer desk to watch other people sing. I don't know why it just doesn't work very well. I mean, on the one hand, sometimes it's just like visually very boring to watch, like it's not working very well in the medium. And then, so you go, okay, well, what you need to do is you need better tech. Have better lighting, have fog machines and great lighting, and have cameras moving and panning around. Well, when that happens, I don't know about you, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but just the reality is when I watch stuff like that, that doesn't really help me worship. It just makes me like more visually interested in what they're doing. And I think, well, that's cool. But again, that's not the point of the worship experience. The worship experience, the point of that is to help me connect with God and to sort of get out of my own head, get out of my own thinking, and to focus in worship and focus on who God is, and trying to do that in this two-dimensional or single-dimensional thing that I'm watching. It doesn't affect me in the same way as doing it in a building with other people. Okay, so where does this leave us? If you can, if it's safe enough, find a local gathering that you can participate in person, live, in person, face to face. If you have a church and it offers in-person worship services, whatever you can do to get there, go there. If there are small group gatherings that you could do, some sort of Bible study or group meeting in a home where you could pray together, participate in that. We need that stuff. And once again, I want to emphasize, if you're in a position where you know it's not safe, you have to make that determination for yourself. But let's not kid ourselves. What I'm saying here in this video is that if those connections that we have are pretty much just virtual, the promises that we're making about the power of our spiritual life to transform us, to strengthen us, to help us with these challenges that we're facing in our mental well-being and our emotional well-being, it's not going to be as strong. It's not going to be as powerful. And we just need to be honest about that. We just need to admit that. And I realize not everyone is going to agree with this. You might not see it that way, and I'm really interested to hear your comments. If you have thoughts about this, write them in the chat box or the comment box below the video. Love to hear other people's thoughts. But this is my concern as a spiritual leader for myself. I don't think it's helping people in the way that they really need help. It's like missing a significant part of the spiritual connection that the church, that the spiritual community that we can offer and that we all need. So what's been your experience? Just let us know. And as always, I want to invite you to like and share this video. And most importantly, hit the subscribe button below the video. That way, when new content comes out, when new videos become available, it will show up in your feed in YouTube. So thanks everyone, and have a great week.